Hi, I'm Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's Slater Success Live. I have a colleague, a friend, Gloria Feldt. There's so much I could say about Gloria. We go back a long time. Gloria is the CEO and founder of Take the Lead. Take the Lead is a nationally acclaimed I'm going to start that over, ladies and gentlemen. Gloria is a nationally acclaimed expert on women, power, and leadership. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's a dynamic woman. We go back a long time. Gloria is the former executive director of Planned Parenthood. And as we've had the joys of chatting together over the years, we both had a mutual kind of client vendor. So the woman who started Take the Lead branding for Gloria was actually a former printing client of mine. You know, I talk a lot about relationships in everything I do. If you join me on Slater Success Live, if you join me on her success story, if you join me in my newsletters, my blogs, it always comes back to our connections. And it's such a joy to be reconnecting with Gloria after a very long time. And we've had in the last few years great opportunities to chat, talk women, talk leadership, and talk the power behind it. Gloria, thank you for joining me here today.
Ivy, it is a pleasure, and I couldn't agree with you more. I always tell people the world turns on human connections. Everything else is maybe 10% of the rest of it. But in truth, the world turns on those human connections, and I'm delighted to be connected with you.
You know, it's funny because somebody who I know, this all came about, interestingly enough, of somebody I know from my old printing days, who now is a client in one of my roundtables, said, "Oh my gosh, you're interviewing Gloria Feldt." I said, "Yeah, I know Gloria." She goes, No. Do you know Gloria from where we know Gloria?" And it took the third party connecting to reconnect to you and I just jumping on a call and saying, "Oh my God, do you remember? Right. And bringing us, "Hey, let's reconnect. Let's get you back on." You did a great interview on her success story a while back, and you have some great new stuff going on and a new book coming out, or a new book that just launched. So share a little bit about Take the Lead and where the pandemic has brought you. Let's kick it off there.
Absolutely. Take the Lead has had to pivot like every other organization. I guess on the one hand, we've always been a totally virtual organization. So we've never had real estate. This is it. You're looking at it. You know, it's either my bedroom in New York or my bedroom in Arizona, one or the other that you're going to get, because that way we can be wherever we're needed, whenever we're needed. And so from that perspective, you know, everything went off as it usually would, but we definitely had to pivot our in-person programs like everybody else did to virtual. We had to learn so much about how to enable people to create cohorts that are meaningful in the virtual space. And we made a lot of mistakes along the way. So it's been an incredible year of learning. And all of this is going on in the midst of not one, but really two pandemics, the pandemic of coronavirus and the pandemic of racial injustice that is not a new pandemic, but is finally recognized as something that is deeply ingrained in our culture. And because so much of our work involves diversity and inclusion and involves, well, we just have a commitment. We've always had a commitment to having at least half women of color in our training programs. So, I mean, these issues were front and center. Meanwhile, I'm writing this book. The book is called Intentioning. It's intentioning sex, power, pandemics, and how women can take the lead for everyone's good. Actually, how women will take the lead for everyone's good.
So I want to jump in here because one of the things I admire so about you is you don't get stuck in, well, this word or that word. You just create your own word. You create a new word saying, and I think it's important because so often, I mean, I was leading a group earlier and we were talking about where many of us get stuck, and we all get stuck at the simple, easy things. It's not the big things that stop us. It's the simple, easy little things. And we just start getting tripped up over our own little 2 feet under an untied shoelace that leads to, you know, a trip and fall. And it was like the sidewalk was fine. It's the little things. And one of the things I so admire about you is I know myself, I can get caught up in language, in verbiage. You know, what's the right way to say something? What's the right? you didn't let this stop you. Like, you know what? We're just going to create a new word and we're kicking off the new book with that.
Well, it took a little doing, I will say, because I tried to find exactly the right word and for what I wanted to express. Because after working with women for almost a decade to help them know their power and their value and bring it into how they want to show up in the world, to understand and embrace their power, I realized there was a second really important question now, and that is the power to what? The power to what? How are you going to use that power? Because it's really that's what counts, is what you're going to actually do with it. And so I started looking for exactly the right word. And I love the concept of intention, but it's a noun. It sits there very nicely. And I wanted to make it an active verb. And I looked at the thesaurus, I looked at the dictionary, I Googled, and I could not find exactly the right thing to express what I wanted. So you're right, I made it up. Intentioning is now an active verb, and my intentioning about it is that it will end up being in the dictionary.
I love it. And viewers, as you see Lori and I chat today on LinkedIn, feel free to pop in with a comment, a question. Gloria, I interviewed Gloria, as I said, a while back on her success story, and you can use that resource also to watch this live stream, as well as go back and resource that on her success story. But today you have this amazing opportunity to actually weigh in, ask questions, and comment. When we look at intentioning and we look at where women are going today and tomorrow, and what are there new challenges? Is it the same challenges looking different? What are we seeing forward?
To some extent, it's the same challenges on steroids. But the data has shown that the pandemic has definitely affected women more than men. I mean, everybody's been affected. I want to just say, this has been a time when everybody has experienced all kinds of grief and loss and change and isolation very often. And so I want to acknowledge that. I don't want anybody to think that I'm making light of any of these challenges that we are having right now. But at the same time, I believe that moments of massive disruption, like a pandemic or like a major shift in some kind of technology or something like that, those are also moments of rebirth, or at least the opportunity for rebirth. So while I hear the bad news, I also think that this is a time when we can, if we do it, if we choose to, if we are intentioning it properly, we can move farther, faster, and actually can achieve gender parity much more quickly than we might have thought, because our institutions now have to change. In a time of disruption, everybody has to open their minds to new ways of thinking, and institutions, organizations, companies are no different. They have to think differently if they're going to succeed and survive.
And I love this piece in this conversation, because I see the pandemic filled with tons of silver linings. Mm-hmm. And also I see the pandemic filled with tons of opportunity. It gave us an opportunity to look at business differently. And you want to talk about re-evolutionizing. I don't even know if that's the word, but I'll go to the old Roadrunner cartoon, where we had, right? I'm a good Roadrunner, and you had a little box of TNT, and then he goes like this, and it goes like pow, and it blows it up. What the pandemic enabled us to do is to blow up what we saw as how we had to be doing business, or how we did business, and look at things in an entirely new light. And when we see that, we see an enormous opportunity for parents who work, men and women. And you talk about something, how women leadership is as important for women as it is for men. And there's not many people who say that, let alone get it. So I would love for you to expand on that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give it a little bit of backstory on how the book got to be shaped the way it is, because my original plan for the book was to interview women, take what I learned from them, turn them into leadership, what I call leadership intentioning tools in this book. Mm-hmm. And that was, like straightforward, very straightforward. And in reality, once there was a pandemic, and then there was the racial injustice that was bubbling up, I had to put a larger context on it. So the structure of the book is that first we look at the disruptions and how these disruptions can actually be the opportunity to make the kinds of changes that many of us have been wanting for a long time. And then that led me to the recognition that countries with women in their leadership were actually doing a better job with coronavirus.
Yeah.
And so suddenly the whole world was seeing this and going, oh, so there's a whole chapter on why leading like a woman is a really smart thing for both women and men, because the characteristics, and this is not hardwired. I want to say this: men are not better than women. Women are not better than men. So let me stipulate to that right now. But we have been socialized differently around things like power and leadership and intention. And the characteristics that are culturally learned by women are the very things that the world is crying out for right now. Things like more empathy, things like more collaboration, more transparency, more willingness to think before taking a risk. Imagine that. And those are the things that now we can take those things that honestly in the past we have often been judged negatively for using more words, for thinking longer, for listening before, not speaking up as quickly. I think now those are the very things that are the reason why organizations with more women in their leadership make more money to begin with. And so we can use those, and then men can learn from that too.
It's true. Women, going back to 100 years ago, as I very often say, the book of, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yes, right.
Okay? And it's not that Mars or Venus is better.
Mm-hmm.
They're both fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little difference. And seeing the strengths that both parties bring to the table versus evaluating what is good and bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at 100% positive perspective.
Right.
And women might take a second to digest before they speak. Women very often listen better. And I'll say very often when I talk about communication skills, we think we listen with our ears, right? Or our head. But what really great listening is with our head, our ears, our heart, and our gut.
Ooh,
and when you engage all three,
mm-hmm.
you have this ability to hear at a different perspective. And women often do that.
Right. There's one study that I love quoting, which found that groups that have been all male, when you add even one woman or more, several women to the mix, it actually raises the group intelligence. Now, again, it's not that women are smarter, but it's that any group that has not been in power has to learn to understand nuances of what's going on. It's a survival mechanism. So women have had to learn to read the room. Women have had to learn to understand what's going on underneath, the ducks, the ducks are paddling, but what's going on underneath the water and what's going on emotionally for people. It's what they say, but in addition, what are they feeling? And that is a hugely valuable skill.
It's so true. And viewers, anytime anybody wants to comment, weigh in with a comment or question, also let me invite you, if you're watching this on the replay as you continue to scroll LinkedIn, feel free to pop your comments and questions. Gloria and I are going to be following this stream for the next several days and then some. So use this as an opportunity to connect and learn more about leadership overall, leadership as women, and where we're growing as leaders as a society.
Right. So that's actually a good opening for me to talk a little bit about the leadership intentioning tools.
Love it.
Because this really is a leadership book. Now, I mean, it is seriously a leadership book, because what I want to do is to help women. And again, it all works for men too, but I want to help people know some thinking processes that will stand them in very good stead as they move up in their career trajectory. you can learn things like budgeting and strategic planning and, whatever. You can learn those anywhere. So I don't really focus on that. What I focus on is mindset. I focus on how you can really know yourself. What are the things you need to do? How do great leaders actually know themselves, and how do they then show themselves in their organizations? I also propose some tools that may be thought of as being counterintuitive. It might be the kind of thing that your mother told you not to do. And I've found in my own leadership that, actually there are things that may seem counterintuitive, but they give you a platform. They give you an opportunity to actually to lead, to think through, to be more strategic. And then there are also the systems change, or the change leadership tools. So there are three different buckets: the self-definitional, the counterintuitive, and the systems change. So we need all of those. And they are all about how you think. And these are the things that will enable people as they move up their career trajectory to be able to manage those different those different levels where they are in their career successfully.
And when we think about how we think, right? Because I'll often say we think with blinders, right? We think because, completely how we could see forward going. Yet, as leaders, we want to open those blinders up and see peripherally, and then some, a little bit in front, a little bit on your sides, even a little bit behind, in order to strategically move forward.
Right. Yes.
And, one of the things, that I find so interesting when we talk is when we look at leaders of what's possible for leadership, not just today, but as we move forward, using this pandemic as a catalyst. What are some of the greatest things women and those great men can take forward with us? A couple of tips or things to be thinking about as we read your books.
Absolutely. Well, we started this conversation talking about the world turns on human connections. And one of those tools is actually, well, there are a couple that really relate to that. One of them is believe in the infinite pie and understand that there is no scarcity of resources, and everything we need is always there, if we have the wisdom to see it and the courage to use it, and to know that there is no limit to the things that are important in an economy that's based on brains, not brawn. So, innovation, creativity, love, the ability to think expansively, create new ideas. Those are all things that are, we can bake huge pies. We can bake more pies. We can, believe in that infinite pie. But you have to believe in it first in order to let go of what we've all been taught about power being a scarce resource and resources being a scarce thing that we have to fight over. No, you don't. If I help you and you help me, we both have more. Which leads me to the next one, which is build.
I'm gonna stop you here for a second, because I think we are in a classic example of just what you're talking about. We're two women who are in very, very identical, similar spaces. We do, right? I add strategy, you add, something else, right? But we're both women who had built great brands on, developing great women leaders as one of the strengths of what we both do.
Right.
Yet we're colleagues, we're friends, we come together. Other people say, well, why are you having Gloria on your show, right? Isn't it competition? Why would it be competition when we're making a bigger impact by both of us collaborating, the beautiful word you used before, to expand a further reach for something we both believe in?
Right. So very true. And trying to go it alone in your life or in your career is never going to get you as far as if you build your networks and build your social capital. So building social capital is the next one of the leadership intentioning tools that I would say is a part of that whole process. I'm going to just jump for a minute to one of the things that the ninth leadership intentioning tool is called Clang Your Symbols. And it's about the importance of leaders understanding how to use story and metaphor and symbolic thinking. And again, in a very complex world, the best leaders will have skills that will enable them to help everyone see themselves in the story. It will help, they will help people understand the meaning of their work and how what their piece of work is fits into the whole. And one of the most important pieces of advice I ever heard in my whole life was from Warren Bennis, the late Warren Bennis, who said the first responsibility of a leader is in the creation of meaning. And I have found that if you can understand that basic principle, you will be a leader that people will want to join, and not just follow, but join in whatever your mission is.
Yeah, and I think about that as kind of signing on the dotted line, right? So we can be leaders. We can be leaders, and we can say, sure, come on, or we can be the Pied Piper, So the sure, come on is kind of like you're pulling people with you,
right?
Kind of like, pulling that toward or pulling that camel in a doubt. Best verse, be the Pied Piper, where everybody's saying, "Oh wait, I'm ready to join. I'm ready to join." And we in leadership, we have choices of how we lead. Do we want to stay in the struggle of getting people to join in our movement, join in the way we lead? Or want them saying, "Oh wait, I'm ready. I'm joining because I want to, not because I have to," because it's the bigger impact we make and the ripple effect of that continues to make that impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And to harken back to some of your initial questions about women and the pandemic, one of the things that we've always known about how women choose the work that they do and why they leave companies or why they leave organizations when it might look like a decision that's questionable, is that women have always preferred to work in places where they feel they have meaning and purpose. And all these companies that are trying to get women to come back in the workforce, I'm going to tell you a little secret, guys. Here's what you need to do. You need to make sure that people, men and women, but especially this is true for women, understand the mission, understand the purpose, understand how what you are doing is helping people in some way or solving a problem in some way. And that plus a more flexible workplace, which we haven't talked about yet. I think those are the things that are going to bring women back into the workforce and frankly, make it a better, smarter, more successful workplace for everybody.
Because we need a little bit of everyone. Various points of view, various thoughts, how we think, how we do things. Some women as mothers, some women as different backgrounds, some women as non-mothers and choosing that. Women of all backgrounds that bring different experiences, that when brands are building forward, each one of those experiences are of value.
Well, yes, because each organization has to be in tune with its market or its constituency. Yeah. So and that changes and people's needs change. And so in order to be in tune with it, you definitely need a diversity of opinion and ideas around the table, a diversity of perspectives. And you can't have that if you don't have gender, at least a reasonable amount of gender equality around the table, as well as other kinds of diversity so that you have different ideas. And you have perspectives on what does the world need from us now? What does the world need from us now? It's just pretty much that simple, but it's a complicated question that many companies have trouble answering.
Right. And in that look of what does the world need from us now, Gloria, I know you have courses and we've looked at some things that you're planning for 2022. And I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit and say, you and I have bandied about of like doing some things like let's blow some things up. Let's do some things uniquely. And it might be a little premature because I know things aren't set, but are you willing to share with our viewers today how you're potentially playing with some new innovations for yourself and take the lead in 2022 to set the example of, I've done it this way in the past, but I'm playing a new game.
Right, right. One of the things that I did this year, was to turn our core curriculum, which is called 9 Leadership Power Tools. Those are power tools as opposed to the intentioning tools to accelerate your career. And I love that course, and it's all rooted in changing the paradigm of power, helping women think more openly and creatively about power and understand their own power. And there are those 9 leadership power tools in that course. And it's been a fairly standard teaching. The teachings are fairly standard in how you do it. Either they're in person, or we have it available as an online self-directed course. And it's great. And I will tell you that people who finish it will say it's life-changing. But as I go forward and teach the intentioning course, which I will create a new course, because I feel that it's kind of for women who are ready to move up even higher into leadership, because that's what I'm coaching them to do with the book, is to aim higher, to have these higher levels of intention. And so that's when you really need to be able to think differently. So what I'm thinking to do, and I'd love to get some feedback on this from people, is to teach the whole course live, and to take the risk of just opening it up and teaching the whole course live. And then I can produce parts of it from there, but always have some live interchange to go with it. So, I mean, you ask, I'm answering. That's what I'm thinking. I would really appreciate feedback and examples from people if they have taken some courses like that they feel have worked for them.
So viewers, you have an assignment, not to just listen to Gloria and I's conversation, but to weigh in when Gloria is trying and to take the model that she leads with of not doing things traditionally, of opening up our mind, our expansion, and playing it in a new way, in a new field. And the way business is done today. So I'm anxious to see how the stream unfolds. Gloria, how can our viewers and listeners learn more about you, Take the Lead, and Take the Lead?
Absolutely. Take the Lead is taketheleadwomen.com. And you can find out there about our courses, our coaching, our other kinds of programs. We have conferences from time to time, and many different resources that are available for people. Sign up for the newsletter so you'll always be on top of it. And I will say, if I can brag a little bit, our blog is award-winning. And so it's worth taking the newsletter, because that's when you get the new blog every week. And for myself, I am at gloriafeldt.com. That's FELDT, gloriafeldt.com. And there on the page that is intentioning, you can also find out more about the book. And I also created, in keeping with my practical nature, I created a workbook to go along with the book. So it's free. You can download it on my website at gloriafeldt.com, and it will help you get even more benefit from the book in terms of leadership skills.
I love that. Gloria, thank you so much for joining me here today on Slater Success Live.
Ivy, it is always a pleasure, and I can't wait for the next time.
And there always will be when the two of us continue to play together. Thank you. Viewers, if you have, enjoyed today's conversation, you had something you took away, something that said, hey, this really meant a lot to me. I want you to put that in the chat below. Not just what you took away, but what's the actions you're going to be taking with it. I always love to understand when we show up for something, not to just listen here, but what I talked about before is listening here, our heart and our gut, and create the actions that we're going to continue to take. As you continue to enjoy Slater Success Live, join me next Monday. That is Monday of Thanksgiving week, the 22nd, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, as I interview Christine Agro. Christine is an amazing woman. We are actually going to be focusing our conversation about the impact and the science behind gratitude as we move into Thanksgiving week. So thank you so much for joining me here today. See you next time.